Okay, just a quick video. I know that in the series True Master, we deal a lot with the concept that let's say the our waking reality is a living waking dream. You have this concept also in Tibetan spiritual systems. You also have this concept more famously in East Indian or Vedic traditions, and the term is called Maya, Maya the illusion. So it's saying that the world that we live in is a waking illusion. Even Albert Einstein said it that the world that we live in is an illusion, however, albeit a persistent illusion. So we run into like a paradox. So we run into a situation where nobody's trying to jump off a bridge because the reality that we live in is concrete to a very reasonable degree. So nobody, if you go jump off a bridge or you go cut yourself or injure yourself or something like that, there are consequences to that, obviously, whatever. And at the same time, the universe or whatever is malleable in the sense of, let's say, like the law of attraction and everything like that, or whatever case may be. And True Master, we don't really, it's not a law of attraction type understanding, though that exists as far as the human being a living biological antenna that can emit certain frequencies, your emotions, your thoughts, and things like that, as well as can absorb certain frequencies and everything like that. Um, we deal with it from that perspective, but I don't want to encourage anybody to just sit down and just dream of their dream reality and everything like that. And you sitting down and your life is passing you by. Life doesn't exactly work that way. It's kind of like a balance between the two. But what True Master does, and a lot of that was actually borrowed from material from the experiential when it's discussed about symbols, patterns, and principles. Because what happens is, as human beings, our perception, our conscious minds, we get fixated on the specific occurrences or the specific event or whatever case may be, and we lose track of the theme of the event or whatever. Whenever you start getting into like occult things or whatever, or doing spell work or whatever case may be, you actually have to observe events. You see what I'm saying? When you get into astrology, you have to observe events so you can see how different energies play out and things of that nature. So you can actually understand, okay, Mars is retrograde. Okay, what's happening in Mars retrograde? And you observe the events around you or whatever catch may be, and you can feel and see the presence of Mars. Mercury retrograde, you can feel the presence of Mercury in retrograde and things like that, and the things that actually happen. So it relegates a lot of the events and things that happen in our lives, not so much as specific events. Oh, this happened to me, or this happened here. There are more fluctuations in an energetic field. So that's a place that True Master kind of takes it to. It takes it to the place of patterns. So these events and things that happen in our lives, oh, this happened to me. Oh, today I such said this to me. No, it's not really about that in True Master. You take it out of that context and you see it in a broader context of patterns or events repeating. How they always say history repeats. Well, every second, every millisecond has some sort of pattern associated that repeats. Astrology is based on these repetitious cycles and everything like that. So when you see things from an energetic perspective and no longer, oh, it happened to me, you can figure out a lasting fix for it. And it's a way to kind of see through the so-called illusion, see through the so-called Maya, as they call it, or whatever. You can kind of see through that and you can plan different events or whatever case may be. The book also talks about the same energies that you will have in astrology, like, Mars, Mercury, whatever case may be, or whatever, as more so like principles and things like that. So instead of praying to a deity or something like that, you try to synchronize, let's say, with a principle that you may be lacking on, let's say integrity, let's say maybe consistency in action or something like that. Well, that would be integrity, but that type of thing or whatever. So you focus more so on the raw principle rather than any particular archetypal thing or whatever case may be. The archetype is a product or maybe a chord of various of these different energies merged into one or whatever case may be, because different archetypes, different deities have multiple different attributes and things like that associated to them. But when we say principle, it's the raw thing or whatever case may be, the raw integrity, the raw let's say creativity, purpose, whatever the case may be, as far as principles are concerned. honesty, whatever the scenario, because what we're dealing with is these things as frequencies of energy. So it's no longer a thing of what True Master is talking about. It's not necessarily talking about praying to nobody. It's talking about the human being as a biological antenna, and we emit and absorb frequencies 24/7. It's talking about if I want to set goals or whatever, it's something called systems theory. You see what I'm saying? The beginning of presence is structure. That's actually a martial arts teaching, but it applies to everything. It applies to systems theory. How do you think they arrive at artificial intelligence? It's called machine learning. It's called pattern recognition. So the same thing that we're talking about here as it pertains to patterns and fluctuations in the energy, and not seeing things as isolated events. And keep in mind that this is a concept that you kind of have to put this helmet on and then take it off. It's hard to exist with this mindset 24/7, but at the same time or whatever, it's a good helmet to put on to actually see things from a different perspective, so you can see if something's constantly going wrong in your situation, in your life, how to actually fix it. When we get into let's say like self to others, we're filtering this through, let's say, like kung fu physics. What does that have to do with anything or whatever case may be? Well, when you get into like actual science, and a lot of this stuff isn't so much plastered in the mainstream or whatever case may be. A lot of people get their martial arts information off YouTube, and that's gonna make you suck. But when you get into actual teachings and stuff like that, you see how the body is divided. The body is a structure. The body has balance points, elbows, wrists. There's harmonies and interrelations between various different parts of the body. The body is divided into various planes or whatever, the mid-sagittal plane, the thoracic plane, various different planes or whatever a case may be, as far as that goes or whatever. Different attacks are issued on various different vectors of those within those quadrants and things of that nature. It gets very scientific. So that's a lot of the information that was actually extrapolated into volume 2 and everything like that. And when you can kind of get into volume 2, it's more centered around goal setting. The martial context of it was taken out, and the goal setting, the raw energetic format of it was put into volume 2 in the sense of goal setting. And when you actually look at it, you look at the extrapolation from the original information and you read it, it's a lot like The Art of War. It's a lot like the stuff proposed in Machiavelli's The Prince. It's a lot like the Book of the Five Rings. It's a lot like a lot of those books that you can read over and over again, and they constantly give you like a roadmap to solve random situations. So and we get into volume 3, that's more of the scientific type thing, is kind of validating a lot of information with electrical theory. But that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit. I want to talk about that Maya, the illusion and everything like that. So when I say love, when I talk about love or something like that, and somebody might be like, well, that's not this, that, and the third, or whatever case maybe. When we talk about love, when you get into certain esoteric teachings, I think we were talking about John Keeley and stuff like that. He talks about love not as a abstract thing, but actual vibration, because he deals with sympathetic vibration, how all things vibrate and harmonize together, and that's what holds the universe and everything together, or whatever case may be. He says love is the baseline frequency that holds everything together. So when we talk about love and integrity and all these various different frequencies, they're not something that's, outside of maybe an emotional context or a, going and coming context. It's not really big in human application or whatever case may be. You may not see the use. That's why we're saying, like, with a lot of this information, it allows you to look through the veil, because when I say love, it's an abstract thing. You can show love through your actions or whatever, but what we're getting in contact with is the energy of the thing. We're getting in contact with its root, the energy that gives it, because love is just to share. It ain't but two forces. It's a toward and away from. Just like fight or flight, toward, away from. You either like something, or you either want to be close to something, or you want to be away from it. Those are centripetal and centrifugal. Those are the only two forces. So everything else is a variation of that. So we just kind of, a lot of the information goes into that. It goes from the simple to a little bit more complex. As you can see, a lot of these subjects get very complex, or whatever case may be, or depending on what the stuff is applied to, it can be more complex. But for the most part, it's very simple. So just wanted to kind of touch on that, Maya, the illusion, and some of this information allowing you to kind of see that thinly veiled thing. You know what I mean? Thanks a lot.